Hi, everybody, and welcome to CloudSec 2021. I'm here with Greg Young, and my name's Mick McCluney. I'm the technical leader for Trend Micro across Australia and New Zealand. And today, we're going to talk to you about remote workforce challenges and the CISO viewpoint around those and some of the challenges. Greg, how are you today?
Oh, fantastic, Mick. This is great that we're able to connect up for the session. I've been looking forward to it.
Fantastic. And Greg, can you just explain what you do for Trend?
My title is Trend Micro's VP of Cybersecurity and Corporate Development. So I have two kinds of hats I wear at the same time, which is kind of awkward. But one of them is helping our customers better secure their environments. And the other one is internal to Trend is what's our strategy. I have a team of colleagues I work with that, but how are we going to move ourselves? And the other sort of headgear I wear is also as a former CISO. I'm a former CISO for the Federal Department of Communications, and I've spoken to a lot of CISOs in my former roles as a Gartner analyst. Spoken to many thousands of them, so I bring that perspective and that baggage with me into my Trend job.
I am reassured I'm talking to the right guy. Fantastic.
I fooled you too. Excellent.
Okay, so some of the remote workforce challenges, obviously there's been this massive move to work from home. It's been kind of foisted upon us. We've had to kind of react and respond to that. The first thing I wanted to highlight was we've seen a change in the threat landscape. The attackers have been quick to move to a mode where they send out many more phishing attacks, spam attacks, even text messages. In Australia, very recently, we've had a mass campaign of text messages. Is that something you've seen reflected as well in your environments?
Yeah, so in this last however many months it's been now, the work from home is we've talked about that a lot, but I think you've hit on two really important things. One is the threat landscape itself, and they have adapted probably quicker than the companies to help secure this new environment. The attackers have jumped on it quickly, but also this has also changed how our companies look. A person working in their cubicle in the office is not the same as somebody working out of their home network with all the dynamics there. And this is a really kind of, our internal landscape is much different. Our attack surface is much different.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's kind of double whammy. The attackers have adapted really fast and knowing people are working from home. I guess your attack surface has changed very much in the way it looks, and you've got people working from home in unknown environments. I think looking after people's security at home. I know my two boys. They play games. They've got Steam installed. The home network is not a place where I could put hand on heart and go, I know everything that's going on. So that's a challenge too. You've got almost a hostile environment.
You do, and there's also a real sort of stratification of the workers as well. That a lot of the technology leaders, they're quite they have good technology, they have a good home environment. Not true for the workers on different parts of that pyramid, that they may be sharing a device. They may be having to use a BYOD device because they're not able to get one from their office soon enough, or their supply chain issues, or they're just not funded for it. They may be sharing devices with their kids who are in education. They may have a really shared routers with their neighbors even. So there's a much different sort of spread of scenarios, and what's really going on at the work at home, I think, then is sort of the assumption of a single model, one router, one machine, a closed office, a dedicated phone to do the MFA challenges. I've seen people on Zoom pass their mobile handset to their spouse because they have a mobile, a multi-factor authentication challenge they have to answer using the same phone. So I think that's the reality that makes it much creakier and much more attackable than many companies realize.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the final point I was going to make was, the traditional VPN and holding up the traffic around that, and you just going to the work from home model, you just can't channel all of that traffic back through a VPN. So there's this evolution in VPN thinking. And I was wondering what you thought of that. Is there a different? Are we choosing what we put over VPNs versus what we don't in a more careful way?
Yeah, so I think much like when your car has a really catastrophic mechanical issue and it's then time to replace the car, and only then I think we're there with VPNs. That the idea that we've had this pipe that goes to the edge of the enterprise and then stops, and sewage or whatever comes out the end and into this, it only secures you to the front door. But instead, there's some really great cool things happening right now with new kinds of VPNs or replacement technologies that are going on, which reflect better what the reality is at home and also on the cloud side. So distributed workers on the home side, but also distributed apps, resources, databases on the cloud side. This is a much different sort of source and destination pathway than we've had. And the opportunity to secure it from end to end is now here. So using software-defined networking.
Yep.
So why don't we have the security to match that? So we're there now.
Absolutely, and that all falls into the theme of what's been part of our digital transformation. So I did some other work. I did some other research around, what are some of the actual challenges that people face at home. And this is a Deloitte survey that was done about cybersecurity and working from home. And some of the challenges were quite simple ones. Has your company enabled electronic signatures? My VPN connection is poor. I don't have access to the important data I need. I can't print out my work documents at home, therefore I can't sign them, and therefore I need electronic signatures. So actually, there's some simple things, I guess, that you need to look at in terms of your tooling and what people need to do to work from home to be successful, right?
Yeah, and I think with our, the CISOs that we've talked to, there's really sort of the have and the have-nots, the ones who are catching up to the reality, and the ones that are leading this, and they're enabling their new workforces, and they're giving them more tools, security and otherwise, to make their environments better and safer.
Fantastic. So I guess that's one set of advice. Then I suppose we've talked about the challenges. So let's talk a bit about what we think the good advice would be. Again, there's some good sites out there. This comes from the Australian ACSC or the cyber.gov.au site, but there are various sources. I think, and we can back this up with some of the challenges we've seen. So clearly, an increase in scams, lots of phishing emails with COVID-19 data, supposedly. Some of it comes back to just standard security advice anyway. It just becomes that much more important at home. So strong passphrases and the importance of multi-factor authentication. Greg, you talked about shared machines and the shared network at home and that challenge. So what's your advice around what companies can do in these unknown home environments?
I think you look at your workforce and see what the reality is. For example, the last point I really like is the use trusted storage in the cloud. Give your people the tools to have that trusted storage, hitting a storage cap, and then not giving employees the ways to pay beyond that. Give them that trusted storage so they don't have to store it on a local machine, which they, may be stolen from the home much more easily than it would be, or used by another family member, and then have the information disclosed or ransomware. Give them those kinds of tools, whether it be the security software or the storage capabilities. Don't make them be insecure just through some minor economies. And probably as well, you have other savings that you've experienced through changing to the work at home model. So shift some of those spends. You don't necessarily have to spend more, but spend better to this new reality. You probably have some capacity or software that you're using in your office that you may not need anymore, so switch that over. If it's a time to retire some old stuff, if you have some old technologies, get rid of that shelfware and shift it over to some of these new capabilities, especially on endpoint security software for multiple stations in the home.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So how is the rest of the home secured? Can you help people do that? Is there something you can do around the router or the traffic or indeed the endpoints at home? I love the point about the trusted storage in the cloud. There's nothing, mistakes happen. I guess working from home, they're going to move their laptop about a bit. There are risks unknown. You're not coming into the office and working off a desktop that always stays there and has the office security you have. So there is an increased risk. And losing a laptop's a terrible feeling, but it's a much worse feeling if you know you had data on there that's sensitive, or indeed a USB stick or things like that. So Absolutely.
Even the lead time right now for replacing devices is so long right now because of the supply chain issue. So if a device fails, still having access through your phone or another device in the home to that data, then you're just not interrupted. But if you have it on your phone, if you have it on a laptop, if you have it spread across your devices, it's more vulnerable, but it's also not as resilient. So yeah, there's just so much to be said. Now, of course, in the absence of, in the case of interruption of the communications, that's going to be a different issue. But generally, cloud storage is a good thing. So
yeah, absolutely. So finally, I wanted to end up with probably four key things to think about, or four titles, if you like. So we've talked about the challenges, we've talked about perhaps the solutions. So key one, give your people the tools and equipment to be successful. That's what we're saying. We're saying, think of them at home, think of them, give them the cloud resources they need, I guess, give them the cloud storage they need, and upgrade the kit, or give them other kit, or make sure they've got the equipment they need. That's
absolutely. And again, if they have a terrible, dodgy router, spend the little bit to help them with that, or at least with your support organization, have them start to answer questions about home routers where they previously wouldn't do that. Just again, the shift of equipment, and especially for things like secure web gateways. So for example, if you have an on-premise secure web gateway today, or for web transactions or URL filtering, make sure that the people in the home are protected, even if they're not on the VPN, because they're going to be going elsewhere. So the reality is, they're at home, protect them at home. Don't pretend that they're in the office and only give them those resources.
So I can just imagine my face if I'm the IT admin guy and you've just told me to look after people's home routers.
Yeah, at least give them a link to where to look, I know, but at least help saying, hey, here's how you patch it, here's how you upgrade it, or you should really look at a new one.
Yeah, and I think actually, to talk about home routers for a second, they are improving in their security capabilities. I think there's actually a range of home devices that can look at your traffic, provide really good security. So it's a moving that's a moving environment. If the home is hostile, I suppose the last wall of defense is the endpoint you're responsible for. So managed security on that endpoint is a must, it seems to me. From a work.
Absolutely. Like, again, if you have a managed endpoint, it is such a different risk profile than one that is unmanaged. The same for your cloud apps as well, that if they're connecting to sanctioned applications, that's one thing. But if they're connecting to unsanctioned applications, that's, increases the risk. But if it's an unsanctioned app and an unmanaged endpoint, that is a really risky scenario. So try to reduce that aperture, that attack surface. And if you can manage the endpoints, then you also have visibility, which is an even bigger deal.
Yeah, so these links to the point after that, and the final point, which is around the security tooling's changing. And if you've got a managed endpoint, your options are wider in terms of what you can do in terms of visibility. So I suppose, I don't know, I'm not summarizing that point very well, but the point is that if I have a managed endpoint, then suddenly I can look at what's going on the machine, what it's doing on the web. I can start to get visibility around whether or not I should allow that device to connect, right? So
Right. Yeah, you can make good decisions then on should it connect or not. But even better is when time to detection and time to response is then lowered, because if you can see that, wow, this spread from elsewhere in the home, I've got a lateral attack going on, you can stop it so much more quickly, and the employee can be part of that solution.
Absolutely. And I suppose that links to just those last 3 points then. That it helps you reduce your attack surface, gives you visibility across compute, web, network, and email. That's essentially what they're doing, whether they're at home or at the office. And it's harder to see from home, I guess, is the key thing.
Yeah, and I'm really glad you included the zero trust model, because this idea that's saying, hey, this old model of saying, one endpoint that's issued by the company and that's what we're going to trust. No, it should be per transaction. Who is connecting at that point, what they're using, where they're going to. All of those should be variables that are assessed continuously. That's the home reality. It's messy, but we have the technology to solve messy security situations. The old stuff, not scalable, not working, and definitely not for the home kind of rodeos that we have now going on. Both and cloud as well, right? Cloud is messy, home environments are messy.
Yep.
But it's, I think zero trust is exactly the way to tackle this.
Absolutely. So it's the who, what, how, and when, and where from, maybe. Those elements of
Right.
build up a better picture of your users and making intelligent decisions.
Right.
Well, Greg,
SD-WAN has changed. Yeah, SD-WAN has changed, right? The technology's changed. It's so software defined. Our security has to be that way as well. So, yeah.
absolutely. Greg, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. I hope we've left the audience here with some useful things to think about. Thank you so much for joining us, and I do welcome you to sort of look at the other CloudSec sessions. There's a bunch of them on various different topics from various different viewpoints. So thank you, and goodbye from me, Greg.
Oh, thank you very much. This has been awesome.
Fantastic. Thank you, Greg. Thank you so much.